We are on.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Parent Involvement Advisory Committee meeting. We are just waiting on our co-chairs, and then we will get started. If we'll just turn it over now to Sarah Lee or Janice, who is co-chairing in the stead of Zena Chirac, our PIAC co-chair. You are muted, Janice. Would you? Thank you.
Sorry, this is Janice, Ward 11. If we can start at the beginning again, so that we give everybody a chance to hear the land acknowledgement. First, I'd like to ask the membership committee if we have quorum.
Yes, we have quorum.
Great, thank you, Andrew. And I will now read the land acknowledgement. If you can stand, please do so. We acknowledge we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas, of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Miigwech. Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody of our code of conduct that we speak in a civil manner, that we respect each other's opinions, and that we give each other time to voice those opinions in a respectful and patient manner. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask any members if they have a conflict of interest to declare or a change in membership status. None? Okay, that's great. Thank you. And
Janice,
Andrew, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
I don't think this is a conflict of interest, but just out of abundance of caution, I just wanted to let the committee know that I am currently a candidate for the vacancy in Ward 11 for trustee.
Great, thank you, Andrew. All right, so we will move forward for approval of the consent agenda from yes, the agenda for this evening. I hope everyone's had a chance to look at it. And I believe we will be also considering the minutes from December 17th at the same time. Does anybody have any questions or comments or amendments that they would like to see? Andrew, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not going to ask for an amendment this time around. I did ask for an amendment at the previous meeting to the previous minutes. But we had a conversation around the audit, and there is some in the minutes commentary around that discussion. Again, I think it is the best possible framing for the board and for board staff. And I would ask that going forward with the operational effectiveness bylaws review, that we consider creating either an administrative officer or secretary position of the committee to focus on minutes to ensure minutes are most reflective of the discussion. I think having a member at the table when the minutes are being crafted would help in this to avoid any unconscious bias. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Andrew. I will bring that to the chair's attention and they will report back on that. Next we have Jack, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an item of new business at that time in the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, if there are no other comments or questions or amendments, could I please have somebody, actually, I will ask, if we have 3 people that are requiring or requesting a roll call vote, please make it known now. Nope. Okay, great. Thank you. So we will move forward with approval and a vote. Could I have someone please put forward a motion to approve the consent and agenda and the minutes?
Eden Hagos, Ward 16.
It's Eden puts forward the motion. And a seconder, please.
I'll do it.
Great.
Musa
Musa,
Ali.
thank Ward 19. Great. Thank you. Okay, so that's put forward and that will pass. Thank you. All right, so next page. We don't have either of the primary co-chairs here, so I think it'll be fine if we just move forward. And then when Sarah returns, she can give her update. So let us move forward to the trustee report from Trustee Dovitius, please.
Hi, thank you so much. If folks can hear me okay, sent in the report last week, and I have 3 items, as I tend to do. The first one is pretty big news, but some of you may have seen it either through email or in the news, which is we've now hired a new director. If folks remember, our previous director had resigned late last year. There was the committee that was put together from the board to do the hiring, which is a bit of a difficult process because the hiring has to happen outside of the school board. It's not like hiring for some of the other positions within the school board. So we hired a consulting firm to help us with that. And we had a great number of applications. Now, I was in the committee and I can speak to generalities if folks have questions about the process and things like that. But the person we chose was Clayton Latouche, and they come from a, well, they worked at the York School Board. But more recently, they were at the Ministry of Education, where they had one of the most senior positions in the province as assistant deputy minister. So that's big news. They start February 10th. And again, if folks have questions, I can get on that. Second element, included in the report, a link to a page that's going to continue to be updated over the next couple of months. This is a little new. This is in regards to the TDSB budget process. As many of you are aware, we continue to receive a decreased levels of funding from the Ministry of Education, not just us, other school boards. Other school boards have now started to generate similar pages as this as well, Halton being one of them. Many of them carry deficits now from year to year, structural deficits in any case. We're not technically allowed to have deficits, but we're borrowing from our savings. And in our case, we've now tapped that out. So we really only have very few options in order to be able to balance the budget, and that's a difficult thing. Depending on the calculation, adjusted to inflation, the reduction in funding is anywhere between $1,500 and $2,000 per student to when this government first started government, some 6-7 years back now. A difficult process that the school board finds itself in. Is not the only one. Again, there are many school boards throughout Ontario that are in the same place, and difficult to make improvements for our children, which is ultimately why we're all here. We want to and give them better opportunities, and that does require the funds. So year to year, adjusted to inflation, we get less money. The web page at the school board, the landing page for the budget at the school board website, I will continue to add information which progress through the budget process. Invite PIAC and all your school communities to participate in the process, be active. It looks like we may have an early election provincially, and that would be a good opportunity for us to remind folks out there, the public, the importance of public education. And then lastly, African Heritage Month, the virtual lunch celebration. I included the link. This is going to be Tuesday, February 4th. And of course, every year we celebrate Black History Month or African Heritage Month. And I wanted to include the information for that there as well. That concludes my report. Happy to take questions if there are any. I'll pass it back to the chair.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for our trustee? All right, I don't see any hands, so I guess we can move on. And our next order of business is the working group reports.
Yeah, Janice, sorry, I'm just back, so I'm able to do the co-chair updates.
Excellent, great. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the patience. Just happens, and I'm glad. Thank you, Janice, for your support and help tonight as co-chairing with me. Attachment, I'm not going to go into full reading. I'm assuming everybody read it. It was attached. Thank you for Lata for putting in. But just a quick update on the meeting. Just a reminder about the board who attends our meeting. We have a general meeting is open to not only us as a PIAC members, but also there's for the trustee, staff, and general public are able to attend this meeting. And also to follow through the code of conduct, which is in our Google Drive. Please follow through that for tonight. And there's also the PIAC working groups. The importance of the work of PIAC happens as we support our school council and school communities in person and direct communities as well in our PIAC working group. So that you follow through, as Janice mentioned, you're going to hear from different working groups. And we again emphasize the importance of PIAC members to at least join or partake in the working group, because that is where the most discussions, most information takes place is at the working groups. Again, just a quick reminder, there's a PIAC conference, Ready, Set, Engage. The school council and principal. Stronger is the 15th annual PIAC conference that will take place at Woburn Collegiate Institute on Saturday, February 1st from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. This conference is an annual event that brings together school council members, TDSB staff, and trustees and PIAC members to engage and network and learn from each other. This is a great opportunity for PIAC representatives to meet with the school council in the wards. Volunteers are also a large part of the conference success. Please reach out to the PIAC Special Events Working Group or the PIAC co-chairs to find out how to support the conference. And then there's the PIAC post newsletter. Please look at for this monthly newsletter in your email and share it with those in your communities. Make sure that ensure your email accounts are updated with our parents, caregiver, and community engagement offices. And for more information, please reach out to info@torontopiac.com. And again, we use the PIAC Google Drive. We encourage that all PIAC members to use the PIAC Google Drive for members' resources and working group activities. And thank you for that. I'll pass it on, Janice.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. All right. So does anybody have any questions for co-chair Sarah? No? Okay, great. So we're moving on to the working group reports. And we will begin with our operational effectiveness working group, and you have 10 minutes assigned, please. Go ahead, operational effectiveness.
Good evening, everybody. Katie Bankasing here, Ward 8. Let's see, I just wanted to be able to get on the camera for a quick moment. We definitely don't need 10 minutes of your time tonight, but do just want to offer quickly that the working group is continuing its work on the bylaws review. And are moving from just kind of generally informing everybody as we did last month, along with a first round of some like collecting some feedback, moving into incorporating very specifically your suggestions and thoughts around areas in the bylaws right now that can get special attention or can be focused and adjusted, amended in specific ways. Sorry. So just thinking about how to say that. Yeah, we're moving into the stage now where we actually want to look at the language of the bylaws, review the different articles. Thank you. Yes, the PIAC bylaws, to update those so that we can bring our meetings, our structure, and our ability to do our work in a way that feels effective and efficient. And I think ensuring that we hear from as many of you around your thoughts for how you're finding our bylaws to support our work, areas for attention or changes or otherwise, ways that we can create efficiency will ultimately help us to do our work more effectively. So we're striking a bylaws working group for that will meet for the first time this Thursday evening, September, oh my gosh, January 23rd at 7:30. We want to connect for just an hour, and we're just opening it up to everybody to invite you to join us if you're interested in this, if you really want to put some time over a few months into creating effective bylaws to support our committee work. And that's it. There was a flyer, a nice invitation included in the operational effectiveness notes for you, and we'll circulate that again tomorrow. So if you feel like just jumping into a conversation for an hour for us to really talk and look at the suggestions we've been getting, please join us for that conversation. And I'm wondering, Erin, if you wanted to quickly take a moment, if I missed anything first, please add. And if you would take a moment just to maybe share the summaries that you have put together that just reflects the first round of feedback that we received around our bylaws. So we had a really great, like, I think 6 points summary that if Erin has it in front of her.
I do. Thank you, Kadeen. Okay, so essentially, we've taken the information received in the first round of questions and condensed that into the 5 areas kind of focus. The first one being onboarding and training. Excuse me, sorry. More training on procedures and tools was requested. Sorry, I should go back. The first round of questions that went out was about your feelings about PIAC, how the systems are in place, what areas do you find frustrating or that are working. And so general open feedback, and then it was specific to bylaws. So this part is more just on the functioning as PIAC, that we can then incorporate more into the bylaws, and just as operational effectiveness continues, areas of focus. So the first one again was onboarding and training, more training on procedures and tools. The second was collaboration, to build a respectful, team-oriented environment through conflict resolution. The third, clear communication, improve clarity and transparency in emails and agendas. Process refinement, update bylaws and procedures for clarity and inclusivity. And we welcome everybody to come. It will be great. Leadership and accountability, ensure fair decision-making and open feedback loops. So those were the 5 primary areas that received the most feedback. That's all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. And so just to give you a sense of the direction of where we will be putting our attention and our time. So again, if you're interested, this is not the operational effectiveness committee, but just a subcommittee that's going to spend some of its time really focused on, again, how we do our work, and that our bylaws support us to do that efficiently as a committee. So hope you'll join us. Thank you very much. And we've also just noted that we are going to resume budget conversations in April, March or April. And just to kind of come back up, our event will be completed. We'll have an understanding of who wants to do ward events at that time. And so just to say that if working groups are getting a sense of the requests that you may have, if we have some spent dollars towards the end of this school year, start to think about that, because we'll be resuming that part of our conversation about March or April. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Kadeen. Does anybody have any questions for Kadeen or Erin, please? Nope. All right, great. Thank you. So moving on to strategic planning. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Mercy Charles. I'm the co-lead of strategic planning, and Sarah was my co-lead before she got elected, so she helped me with this workshop. So I just wanted to provide an update with the strategic planning session that happened on Saturday, January 18th. So here's a quick update. We had really strong engagement with representatives from 13 out of 22 wards. We had 17 co-reps who attended, as well as our two co-chairs, and Michelle and Nata. So the focus was addressing 4 key areas of strategic importance. And so the first one was becoming a trusted source as PIAC rep in our ward. So this is where we explore ways of PIAC reps to become a trusted source. The second key area was increasing awareness of PIAC across the system. This is where we identified strategies to enhance PIAC's visibility and engagement within the educational system. The third key area was supporting school councils in their engagement and advocacy, where reps explore how PIAC can better support school councils in their advocacy and engagement efforts. And the last key area was ensuring clear operational effectiveness and communication. We talked about how to develop strategies to improve operational clarity and communication within PIAC. Some key takeaways, we also talked about all the points and ideas that were discussed and brought up. We also looked at key priorities and targets that we need to focus on. We also identified challenges, as well as solutions and strategies. And other information that we gathered are what are the biggest concerns that reps have seen from school councils, and what are the 2 main things needed for school council to be successful, and what are the major issues that is currently affecting student success, and what positive initiatives are currently working. So the next steps, we will be compiling the feedback from the street into a strategic plan, and then also we will be selecting another co-rep for the working group, and we'll be providing progress updates for upcoming PIAC meetings. And Sarah and I would like to thank everyone who participated in the session, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mercy regarding the strategic plan?
Ward 1. I don't have any questions, but I would just like you to thank you and Sarah for the day. It was actually rather enjoyable and well set up. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Erin.
And thank you for that, Erin. Thank you for everybody for attending. I know it's a start. If you guys have any and info, and also the feedback. It was a lot of work that we've asked both myself and Mercy to do, but it was fun at the same time. We probably would have approved the transportation wise and parking conditions. So that's something we're going to look into. Appreciate it for members who gave us that hint, and look forward for also feedback. And I know that Mercy, you're going to send out the evaluation component. I know we got excited and we left without informing that, but appreciate that. But I think we have our hands up. Thanks, Anshu. Johnson, go ahead.
Through the chair, Johnson Jayola, Ward 4. Thank you. And I just want to add, because I was an active participant in that meeting, there was some good stuff that went down there on Saturday that I think we should imitate here in our gathering. And we were able to do a lot of good. I don't mean we've not been doing good here, but we did something very, very good on Saturday. So, which basically the summary of what we did was, it was 90% focus on what is going to bring positive impacts directly to our children. Yeah, and few things around governance of this forum. So I think it is very germane we imitate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnson. Thank you. And thank you for yourself and everybody else who attended. For the other members who are unable to attend, we will definitely send all the detailed information. And the goal is to also bring out on the evaluation if this is something you would like to see. Yes, I know the strategic aspect is completed, but I think Mercy and whoever the next co-lead is, to just focus on what other aspect of it, where we can do, get together, getting to know each other, just the basic of info, and meeting a lot of the people since the COVID, PIAC members, and notice how a lot of you guys from different members share the same similarity. Aside, if we take out the formality of PIAC, that we're all here to engage, and we're parents, and we want the best for our students and our children. Ward 8, Kadeen, go ahead.
Thank you. And just to the last point that you were making, Sarah, and for everybody, for me, Saturday felt particularly wonderful because in addition to us putting our thinking hats on and working together, there was a chance for us just to be people, to get to know each other outside of all of the kind of process stuff that we do here often. And that felt really important. And to know that you all have feet, it's wonderful, you know, like you're not just a face or your name's on the screen, on our Zoom screen. So again, thanks for the time and effort into that. Appreciate it.
That's great. Thank you, Katie. And does anyone have any further questions for the strategic planning group? Nope. All right, great. Thank you so much, Mercy and Sarah. And as everyone has said before, I will echo that it was a fantastic day, and it was great for everyone to get together and connect. So moving on, we'll go to the membership working group, and I believe we have a motion. So membership, if you want to go ahead, please.
Hello. Sorry, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah. Andrew Waters, co-lead for membership working group. Actually, there is no motion today. We were working towards a report back based on the motion that came out of the special meeting in November about looking at guidelines around elections for ward reps for PIAC. There was a good discussion that occurred at the most recent PIAC membership working group meeting. So I'll just speak to a couple of the pieces. The report has been shared. And if just give me a moment. Yeah, here we go. So basically, a couple of points that were talked about is probably looking at ensuring that the elections are conducted in a similar manner to what is in Regulation 612, both for PICs, which we are parent involvement committees. PIAC is from a provincial perspective, a parent involvement committee, and school councils. And this is because there is noted in the conversation that the elections have occurred with a variety of circumstances that are probably not ideal for parent engagement around the election. Elections being held on a PA day, elections where the nominating period was effectively less than a week when the communication went out, not allowing parents to be able to make themselves put themselves forward to be nominated to become a PIAC rep, or at least to be involved in the election. So basically, the conversation was around what it could look like, and we're hoping at the next PIAC meeting or the one thereafter, after the group has had an opportunity to refine a document, to bring that forward to PIAC for a vote. Other than that, we do our vacancies have a little bit of an uptake after last meeting where we declared a number of chairs vacant. But overall, we're sitting at 34 of a possible 47 members. So again, encouraging any trustees on the line and try to get the information out, working with the co-chairs and working with the PCCEO office to ensure that elections are happening in a timely manner, to ensure we have all the members across the district for PIAC. And with that, I'll take questions.
All right, do we have any questions for Andrew? Melanie, Ward 9.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks so much. I just have a quick question. Did your co-leave not leave the TDSB?
So I have yet to receive any information supporting that. I'm actually surprised that a member of PIAC would raise this in a public meeting. I think this is, the type of thing that TDSB staff spoke about, trying to keep things in more private settings. So I'm actually surprised that I have to discuss this at this moment.
All right, thank you for that. Any further questions? Melanie, is that a legacy hand, or did you have another question? No? Okay, great, thank you. All right, if we had no further questions, we will move on. Thank you, Andrew. To School Council Support Working Group. Go ahead.
Thanks, Janice. Okay, so I'm not sure why it's not on there, but we have a recommendation and a couple motions coming out of our working group. I will start. Latha, if you don't mind, are you able to put the recommendation
That'll be great.
up on the screen, please?
And just for the working group, for other members to know, can you guys, if you're the co-lead, can you just introduce yourself? That would be great.
Yeah,
I don't know.
sorry.
Yeah, whoever it is. This is also for tracking purposes as a co-chair. Go ahead.
My name is Melanie Madero Sims, Ward 9. I'm one of the co-leads. Gordon Harvey is the other co-lead, and unfortunately he couldn't be here with us tonight, so I will be doing this on both of our behalfs. Thank you. If you can just, if you can just click the link, please. Latha, if you just click, thank you. Perfect. Oh, is it not opening? Perfect. Thank you so much. So this is based on, so the School Council Support Working Group is recommending that PIAC give feedback to the Ontario budget consultation. So I'll just read it through for everyone. Please find this, our 2025-2026 Ontario budget consultation feedback. We are Toronto PIAC, the Parent Involvement Advisory Committee of the Toronto District School Board. We represent the parents and caregivers of TDSB's nearly 600 schools. We want to emphasize the high priority of education in the Ontario budget. Funding for education is an investment in the future of our society. Our provincial budget should reflect on that importance. Ontario sits in the bottom half of Canadian provinces in school board funding per student. Current funding gaps for supporting student achievement, mental health, and well-being must be addressed to adequately meet existing needs. The ongoing funding gaps have an impact on student. Oh, I said that already, sorry. These chronic gaps must be addressed in order to effectively meet the evolving needs of students across TDSB schools. As was recommended by the Ontario Auditor General in 2017, we recommend that the provincial funding formula should be revised to meet student needs, factoring in the real costs with today's inflation. Due to the size of our student population and scope of operations, the TDSB has significant needs to support safe and modern learning environments that offer appropriate special education supports, resources to support mental health, well-being and safety, and access to reliable and up-to-date technology for all students. We support the Ontario Budget Response Submission of the TDSB Board of Trustees. In particular, we want to stress the need for mental health supports, increasing professional support services staff like psychologists, social workers, and child and youth workers to decrease wait times, provide direct services, and support marginalized communities and newcomers. Approximately 1 in 5 children and youth in Ontario has a mental health challenge. About 70% of mental health challenges have their onset in childhood for youth. The pandemic has exacerbated this. Education funding simply must include considerations for supporting students in this reality. The education system is ideally situated to support the well-being of students, but boards need the funds to do it. Students cannot learn when they are in crisis. Give our students what they need to succeed with adequate, stable ministry funding that keeps pace with real costs to provide the necessary programs and services for our students' well-being and academic success so that they graduate ready for whatever comes their way. So we are asking that the co-chairs send this letter on behalf of the committee.
All right, thank you, Melanie. So just if you could just clarify just one more time for the audience, the motion, then.
So this is not a motion, it's just a recommendation. So we're recommending that the co-chairs send this letter on behalf of the committee as a whole.
I believe, do we not have to have a vote to support that, Sarah?
We can have the discussion. It's open right now for the recommendation if anybody has against, but I think we have a hands up from Perusa office.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll change my name. That's my day job name on the account. I'm sorry about that. It's Trustee De Lovitis.
Okay, sorry, Trustee.
Apologies for that, and I'll change my name in a second.
No, and that's actually what I was asking for Lat, if you guys can give me the co-host to make the changes, or one of us. I know Zina's not here, but or maybe I can just quickly ask PIAC members if you can just rename yourself and put your ward number, so just WO ward, W0, and then just your number, just for keeping track of attendance and knowing who's here or not. Thank you. Go ahead, Trustee.
Thank you. So I want to thank the folks that put together the recommendation. I think it's opportune. We may be going into election season, and then the government should be hearing from parents in terms of what they think is needed in our education system, as well as the other parties as well. I think the more that we can raise the sort of profile of education in the public's mind, the better our kids will do in general. Sometimes, people have a tendency to think through problems, and we think about healthcare and issues that may be there. We forget about education, which is the other big file provincially, right? That was just to thank the folks that put together that. And the other thing I wanted to do is an invitation for PIAC, the committee members, and everybody else that's here to take the opportunity as the budget process is about to launch for the TDSB, and for you folks to talk about what you think we need to do and to let us know and advise us. That's your main role. In terms of that, I would love to see this type of presentation at a finance committee meeting coming up. I would love to hear about what you think is important, mental health, and all the other elements that were listed here, and how they fit into our multi-year strategic plan, and how you think we need to do better, and where we need to do better, or where you think we're doing great. All those things are useful, but importantly, I would love to hear PIAC sort of speaking directly to committees. So maybe what I can do over the next few weeks is send the co-chair some of the timelines, and they can try and work with the different committees to ensure that we get information to some of those FPEC meetings in time. And anyways, it's a suggestion. I'm hoping people will take that up, but I really would love to hear this type of feedback as well with my rest of my colleagues, I'm sure. So thank you for the work you put into this.
Thank you. Jack, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out that recently I asked our communications department to clarify what number of schools we are using when we talk about the number of schools in TDSB. So I just wanted to point that out to the group. If they wanted to make a change, nearly 600 is fine. The actual number that our communications department is using is 579. Just wanted you to know that. Because sometimes there are different numbers that are thrown about, and I until recently I thought it was 583, but depending on how you count them, the number that communications uses is 579. Thank you.
No, that's good information. Thank you. We will have that revised.
Great, thank you, Jack. So Sarah, sorry, do we not have to have a consent vote?
No, we can ask if anybody has objection, just to speed up the process. Anybody against it? Having the
So,
go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, normally what we would do is we put forward the motion to have you send this on behalf of the group. Then we would ask for any questions. If there are no questions, or we would ask for, sorry, a seconder. Then we would ask for any questions, and then we would have the consent if nobody is asking for a roll call. Is that all right?
Yeah. So this is recommendation, if I'm correct, right, Melanie? It's not a motion.
Yes, it's a recommendation.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so we're recommending that this is
Yeah.
sent on behalf of PIAC. You've read it out. If we could have somebody support it, second it.
I think some
I'll second it.
All right, and who was that?
Musa?
Musa.
Musa, okay, great, thank you. And so then we would take questions, and that's Tanya. You have a question?
I do. Thank you very much. I love this report. I love this idea. I think it's a huge need. I just wanted to, I'm a stickler for wording and for process. In this recommendation, it says increasing professional support services staff. So are we recommending that there are more psychologists, social workers, child and youth workers within the TDSB? and it says direct services. So are we recommending that we increase funding so that these positions can be held within the TDSB, strictly for the TDSB? Or would this be like a kind of like a vendor type thing where we would go to certain community centers and have partnerships with services like this?
No, so this would be directly, so we already have psychologists, social workers, and child and youth workers, but they continually keep getting cut. For instance, my kid's school has over a year wait list to get spec ed assessments. We had a social worker that was on leave for a while, and then we didn't really have another one for a time. So it's just to get more in the schools. So get more, like, addition to what we have now, basically.
All right, great. Tanya, was that sufficient?
Oh, I wrote it in the chat. Perfect clarification. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It reads as intended then. Thank you.
So if there are no further questions, then if nobody is requesting a roll call vote, then this will be passed to be sent forward on behalf of PIAC. All right, great. Thank you.
Yeah. So
that
this
passes.
So this now goes to so just for clarification, I think what happens now, this is going to go to the co-chairs, and now the co-chairs will send it on behalf of the committee.
Great,
okay.
thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to talk about the award outreach funding. So January of 2024, we put the school council support working group put forward a motion so that every rep can get $500 for word outreach funding, we called it. So we had some discussion in our last meeting, and so we had brought forward an expression of interest form. So what we have decided is, so reps wanting to access the funds, the $500, must complete the expression of interest form by March 31st, 2025. If you have filled out the form already, you are approved. Outreach events must be held by May 15th, 2025. Any remaining budget funds will be reallocated by operational effectiveness working group. And then I have an amendment because we are doing an expansion of the fund perimeters to include childcare, because as of right now, it is just for refreshments. After I had a great conversation with Kay Dean, co-lead from the operational effectiveness working group on Saturday. And what we thought is, because there are still a lot of questions around how the $500 can be spent, what we will do is we will, I guess, have a little seminar, if you want to call it, and anyone who's put forward the expression of interest form, we can have like a little meeting, and then we can discuss like the parameters around it, how to access the funds, because we need to use TDSB vendors, and all of that. I will read the motion and then I will take questions on anything. So Lapa, if you don't mind opening up this motion, it's the amendment to budget allocation.
So as in our last motion, we will have the motion read. So that's put forward. We'll take a seconder, Then we will address any questions and then it will be a consent. Oh, I'm sorry, if it's for budget.
No, it's been
Actu-
approved. We're just adding, we're just an amendment to the budget we already have.
Oh, okay, so it's not any further funds, so,
No, yeah. Okay.
okay.
Okay, so amendment to motion budget request allocation of $500 per ward for representative outreach. This amendment seeks to ensure greater inclusivity by offering childcare support, making outreach events more accessible to a wider demographic of parents and caregivers in the community. Whereas fostering community engagement is vital for effective representation, whereas allocating resources for outreach activities aids in building rapport with constituents, whereas ensuring accessibility for all participants, including parents and caregivers, is essential to encouraging broader community involvement. Therefore, be it resolved that childcare expenses be included as an eligible expense in the $500 per ward allocation for representative outreach activities, in addition to the refreshment expenses previously approved, so that each ward is able to provide childcare services during outreach events as needed. Revised description of fund utilization: 1, meet and greet sessions with school councils, elementary school council refreshments for 1 session, $100, middle school council refreshments for 1 session, $100, secondary school council refreshments for 1 session, $100, joint event bringing together all school councils, $200. And then this is what we're adding now, number 3. So number 1 and 2 was already approved in the last motion. So number 3, childcare services. Each ward is able to use the funds to provide childcare services during outreach events to ensure parents and caregivers can participate fully. This can be used for hiring qualified childcare providers or supporting existing community childcare programs. Now I will take questions.
All right, great. So could we have a seconder for that amendment, please? Is that Musa? Sorry, Musa, are you seconding or you have a question?
I have a question.
Okay, so Kadeen, I think you seconded that.
Yes, I will.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so Musa, go ahead.
Thank you. This May 15 deadline, could you please explain why is it May 15?
Because after discussion, we thought the problem is if we don't use all the funds, then PIAC loses the funds. So we want PIAC to be able to have those funds. So what will happen is we're giving a deadline so that we can put the money that's not used back in PIAC, the PIAC budget, and then we can allocate it elsewhere.
Is it possible to extend this deadline to the end of May?
We can have a discussion about it.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea to extend it to the end of month. And about the meeting that you said that you would like to have a meeting of all those who have filled up the form for expression of interest. The forms, I believe, were not sent out to all PIAC members, right?
They were sent out a couple months ago, but we can have them sent out again. And they are
Okay.
in the Google Drive if you ever want to access them. But we can
Right.
definitely after the meeting we'll send them out again.
Sure, I might have missed it. I didn't see it because I was waiting for the outcome of the working group to figure out how it should be done. So again, in the strategic planning meeting event, we had discussed about this and about how to reimburse or how to allocate the funds. So is that finalized now or we're still waiting?
We're waiting to get some more clarification, but there is a bit of a workaround now, so that's why it's a bit complicated, so that's why, like Kadeen and I had said, we would, we would sit down with some, like, once you want to use the funds, we'll sit down with you, so that way we can help you figure out how to navigate it.
Sure. And could I request you to send the invite to all PIAC reps,
Of course.
regardless if they have
Yeah.
filled up the forms or no?
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you very much for all the hard work.
No problem. Thanks, Musa.
Great, thank you. We have 3 more questions. Next is Tanya.
Thank you. One more question. Would it be possible to, the wording in this, refreshments for one session, does that mean per session? Because it kind of reads like I'm allowed to have one session a year, rather than per session.
So I just
$100.
So I just took the wording from the last motion, which was
Fair
passed.
enough.
Yeah. So
Fair
I
enough.
just, yeah. And then I
But that's what it does
yeah,
mean.
I get
You
what
can have
you're,
more
yeah, I
than
get
one.
what you're saying, but the way it works is you have $500. This was kind of just like an outline, like giving you an idea, like you could be spending, for each school, like, cause
Sure.
$100 for like one school council, but I mean, it doesn't, yeah, you can use the $500.
Okay.
In one session, you do 3 sessions and use it. That doesn't
And
really
just being, yeah, perfect. And just being part of the events committee, from my experience, the vendor list for childcare services is quite small. And B, very costly. And that, I mean, I like the fact that there's no cap on it, but I just want PIAC members to be aware that that can eat up your $500 limit very quickly.
Thank you for that, Tanya. We were actually
Definitely.
hoping if people were hosting it at a school, they would use their child, like whatever school council, whatever school they're at, they'll just use that school council's childminder. So hopefully, that'll.
Oh, I see. So because these are done, but these are technically, are we submitting these expenses then to the PCCO office?
Yes.
And then I guess if we're paying out of pocket first and then submitting our expenses, then it doesn't have to be a TDSB vendor. Only if the PCCO office has to invoice or get paid directly to the vendor. It has to be.
So these are things that we are still working out, and that's why we said we would do like a separate session. Like what's on the table right now is what's on the table right now is just to add the childcare, just so we're able to.
And then we can iron out the semantics
and then
later.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Fair enough. Cool. Thank you.
No, thank you, Tanya. Great questions though.
All right, great. We have 3 more questions, and then we'll wrap this up. Aiden first.
My question's been answered. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. And Kadeen?
Great, thank you so much. I do not have a question in relation to this. Certainly, I hope that the membership sees the value in amending this to enable the costs that are going to help us get parents into our events, or parents and caregivers into our events. I do want to say, though, that it's clear there are a lot of questions people have around how they can do their events and do them successfully. And ensure that monies and things are used, not only used, but expensed in ways that, everybody gets their money back and it's all accounted for. But certainly to just encourage you to attend this info session when it happens. So we'll certainly make sure that the invite goes to all of the membership. But I do encourage you, though, to, as you're considering, I'm not sure about this, to still get your expression of interest in. This is just helping us to have a sense of who will do and how much, who's interested in doing an event, and potentially how many of these like ward events will actually happen, so we can think about our budget as well, right? So it's just good to know where things are at. and then, submit your expression of interest, and then also come to the info session. So together we can get clear on all of the pieces that need to be in place. Permits is a big one as well, right? And how we can get our spaces booked with the support of the PCCO office and other things. So thanks. I just wanted to encourage folks to do that because we want to make these events happen. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to do ward engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Kadeen. And we have a final question from Andrew.
No, my question was answered. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. So we've had the motion seconded, and Musa has suggested an amendment to change the date from May 16th, I believe it was, to May 31st. Melanie, are you in agreement to amend it to that date?
So there is no date in the amendment. The amendment is strictly to add childcare services.
Okay.
Those dates were just in the working group report, and I was just kind of throwing that information out there. As for the date, I will bring it back to our next school council support working group meeting, and we will discuss it during the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we will now.
Yeah, it's our hands up.
Mercy, we'll take your last question.
Sorry, just one last quick question. I saw that we have a number of trustees on the line, so this question is for them mostly. In terms of like this effort that we have with this outreach, I wonder if there's any opportunities to pair up with our trustees and do this session together.
Chair, is it okay for me to answer?
Yes, please. Yes.
Go ahead.
So thank you for the question. I really like that idea. Personally, I would love to participate in that type of process and could try to encourage my colleagues to do that. Our time is limited always, so if you give us a little bit of structure and you let us know how and when to help you on this process, we would love to be able to do that. I know my folks are here, so I can work with them. But yes, and one of the things that we talked about over the last few months, but and maybe we can put into effect now over the next couple of cycles before the semester is over, is to have the co-chairs come into board to make a presentation to do two things: encourage the missing PIAC positions to be filled, and maybe talk a little bit about how to assist in this process as well.
Great, thank you. So we've had our motion put forward. It's been seconded. No amendments are necessary. So unless we have 3 members who would like a roll call vote, this vote will be considered passed. Is there anyone that would like a roll call vote?
It's budget, so it has to be an individual ward vote, doesn't it?
I believe there's no change to the budget. It was just to include the child minding as a guideline.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
All right, so there are no requests for a roll call vote, so this motion is considered to be adopted. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
So the next motion we have is school lunchbox. Latha, if you can please bring that one up. While Latha brings it up, just some quick context on this. So we had a member bring to our attention that so I'm sure more people are familiar with School Cash Online. There's also something called Lunchbox out there, and judging by a spreadsheet and by calculating some numbers, there was estimated fundraising loss to schools by using lunchbox, apologies, instead of school cash online. We did ask the staff some questions at I believe it was the December executive meeting. And then we did bring it back to the last school council support working group meeting, and members thought that this was important to bring forward as a motion. Okay. So the school council support working group proposes that PIAC make the following recommendations. Motions to the TDSB. TDSB direct the Director of Education to review the lunchbox module provided by CAV Group and determine if there is a good value for money when compared to providing payment for lunch program through School Cash Online module, also provided by CAV Group, and report back by providing a staff report to PIAC for consideration. 2, TDSB direct the Director of Education to ensure that school councils are provided with clear information on the benefits and costs of using lunchbox module in comparison with School Cash Online, so that school councils can make an informed decision about their lunch program payment method. 3, TDSB direct the Director of Education to ensure that their school staff where school staff have taken over the administration of a lunch program at a school and the corresponding fundraising, that the school council determine what the fundraised funds will be spent on prior to the beginning of the lunch program and fundraising each year, and that it be clearly communicated to parents and caregivers at the school. Recommendations to the Director of Education. Director of Education review lunchbox module provided by CAV Group and determine if there is good value for money when compared to providing payment for lunch program through School Cash Online module, also provided by CAV Group, and report back by providing a staff report to PIAC for consideration. Director of Education to ensure that school councils are provided with clear information on the benefits and costs of using lunchbox module in comparison with School Cash Online, so that school councils can make an informative decision about their lunch program payment method. Director of Education to ensure that where school staff have taken over the administration of a lunch program at a school and the corresponding fundraising, that the school council determine what the fundraised funds will be spent on prior to the beginning of the lunch program and fundraising each year, and that it be clearly communicated to parents and caregivers at the school. So I guess someone has to second the motion now.
Eden Hagos, Ward 16. Oh,
nope.
Sorry.
Andrew Waters, Ward 3.
Okay, Andrew seconds. Is everybody clear on that motion? Okay, we have a couple of questions. So Andrew, do you have a question?
Yes, actually, I have a comment and would like to, if possible, I could share my screen to show the spreadsheet so people have an understanding of what was talked about at the membership working group. Sorry, at the school council support working group.
Okay, please go ahead.
So as you can see here, this is an example of if you were having a pizza lunch where you would have 300 slices. If you had, well, it could be 300 students each ordering one slice, and this is kind of the breakdown of cheese and pepperoni and the veg. So this piece here, if you're using order through School Cash Online, and somebody calls Pizza and makes the order themselves, these are the costs. And so you can see here, this is the cost per slice. Ordering a large, you do actually have the option of order extra large, which means you can actually get 10 slices squeezed out, and it's actually even a better discount. But this is for comparability purposes. It's large versus large because lunchbox, the option is 8 slices of a large pizza. So if you look at through the lunchbox, this information is current as of in the fall. School council, this was the information that was provided to, and so you can see here there's a difference between the cost per slice if you just call pizza and you've done your ordering through School Cash Online versus Lunchbox, and it appears that the markup is between 35 and 38%. So again, if you're doing the math and you say an average of 2 slices per student, some students order 1, some students or families order more than, then this would be sort of the fundraising or funds coming out of parents and caregivers pockets that are going to KEV in comparison to if it's just run through School Cash Online. And then if you take that, multiply it by, let's say, 10 pizza lunches a year, 1 per month roughly, that would be the yearly loss per school. And then if you say 50% of schools are doing pizza lunches, like this adds up quite quickly with a board this large. So I think that's really important that school councils and everyone has a clear understanding of when they're making decisions around fundraising and how the payments are collected. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew.
And that was Andrew. I think Jenny has her hands up. Ward 42.
Yeah, I just have a quick question for clarification. In the part where you said that when the administration have taken over the fundraising or the pizza lunches and that kind of thing, are you guys asking that they have council info, like they get input from council on how to spend that money, or that they just inform us on how they intend to spend it?
So a bit of both, really. It's, I guess, when administrators kind of do fundraising on their own, sometimes school councils don't know where that money's going because they don't discuss it with the council or school community. So we're asking that they do share it and do come to the school council and ask.
Okay, I just because I wasn't sure with the way the motion was written. I misheard. Because I know with some they will tell the council how they intend to spend it, but they've never gotten actual feedback on how they should. So I just wanted to double check before putting it.
Yes, that's in there. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, I would ask Jenny this question. I think this is a great question. I think this is one of the concerns. I think increasingly things that have been sort of the purview of school councils in the past have increasingly where administrators are taking over these functions. And but I would, I know there's like the TDSB staff provide very clear guidelines to school councils about that if any fundraising is to be initiated, that it's to be transparent, it's to be accountable, like really putting a lot of what's the word I want to use? Emphasis to school councils and making sure you follow the rules and those kind of pieces. And I think the same should be asked of TDSB staff, especially I know of areas where there's been some rather large fundraising occurring and councils not knowing how that money is being spent. So maybe this is actually a question for staff.
All right, thank you, Andrew. And Aiden has put in the chat that school councils have to submit their fundraising plan for approval by superintendent in advance of any fundraising. So that is an important piece of information to note. And Nicole says exactly why this was included in the transparency of funds motion put forward. So if we have no further questions or comments, or if any staff want to weigh in on this, then we will proceed to the consent vote. All right, are there any members that would like a roll call vote on this? No? Okay, great. That means that this motion is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for their patience and all the great questions. Last motion for the night, from me at least. Latha, if you don't mind putting up, this one is the suspension of school council operations. Thank you so much. So this is a motion against board suspension of school council operations. Whereas pursuant to the Education Act, Ontario Regulation 612, the purpose of a parent involvement committee is to support, encourage, and enhance parent engagement at the board level in order to improve student achievement and well-being. Regulation 330, by supporting school councils of the schools of the board. Whereas the Ontario Education Act requires school boards to establish a school council for each school operated by the board. Whereas Ontario Regulation 612 states a purpose of school councils is to enhance the accountability of the education system to parents. Whereas suspending a school council is in conflict with its responsibility to hold the education system accountable. Whereas Ontario Regulation 612 does not describe a process for school boards to suspend school council operations. Therefore, it be resolved that PIAC recommend the following. 1. The Director of Education and Board of Trustees confirm that TDSB staff have no authority under Regulation 612 to disband or suspend school council operations. 2. TDSB consults with the Ministry of Education on the appropriate process of when school council operations may be suspended by a school board. 3. If the Ministry of Education indicates that a school council can be disbanded or suspended by a school board, then the TDSB put in place a third-party arbitrator to make that recommendation to a committee of trustees to approve such an action. Someone second the motion?
Andrew
I'll
Waters,
second.
Ward 3.
All right, Andrew, you will second that motion. All right. Does anybody have any questions regarding this motion that you'd like to ask Melanie? All right, we have a speakers
I
list
have a
here.
question. I have a question.
I think Kadeen has her hands up too. 2 people.
Okay, so Kadeen, Seema, and Johnson. Go ahead, Kadeen.
Thank you very much. And I guess just to understand and maybe put into context why this is coming up now, for clarity or for direction, as far as the Director of Education and the trustees, that there be some comment as to under what circumstances staff or the appropriate staff would need to disband a school council. Under what circumstances would that happen or need to happen? Please, thank you.
Sorry, Madam
Melanie.
Chair,
Oh, sorry.
is that
Go
a
ahead.
question for staff? I'm not sure.
I'm just seeking clarity. Yeah, thank you. And maybe just to make sure I can be heard, just to clarify and to put in, for consideration, under what circumstances would a staff need to come in to disband a school council? I'd just like to understand, to then, have a clarity around what this would speak to or why we'd need to be saying otherwise.
Through you, Chair, if I may start, and I hope my colleagues will be able to piping if necessary. So the language of banned school council I don't believe there are staff who are looking to do that. However, let me speak to a couple things in Regulation 612. Regulation 612 requires every school council to have bylaws. Within those bylaws, they must outline a process for something for conflict resolution. Within the council's conflict resolution, council may outline their conflict resolution process as to the steps that they will go through to resolve a conflict. The Toronto District School Board has also drafted bylaws for school councils across the district where there are none. And within the purview of the board, we have offered options in our template to school councils to choose what that resolution process may look like. So you stated in your motion, and so if a council, for example, is having significant operating challenges, if that council also may be breaching a variety of Toronto District School Board policy procedures, breaches of human rights code, in scenarios, there may be required a dialogue or a mediation to occur, and there are various options that the mediation may result in. So you will note that we have been encouraging across the board for the last 5 years that school councils have bylaws that outlines their resolution process, and that resolution process may allow the council to engage in a process. Where that process breaks down, where maybe the school council may not be able to resolve their conflict, then they also have the flexibility to have staff support the resolution of that process with a third party that may be supported by the board. And so it's really difficult. The scenarios may vary where the language is not disband a council. We may have to suspend a council to complete a process. But usually there's already processes clearly outlined pertaining to what that would look like in a school council bylaws or the board. You will note in your motion, you also stated that it nowhere in Regulation 612 does it say that a district cannot, and nowhere in Regulation 612 does it say that that a school council cannot. So it provides space and flexibility as to what that would look like. And so I will say to you that I've had multiple conversations with the ministry around this process, and the response from the ministry comes back to what is written in the school council bylaws as it relates to conflict resolution, and what is the board's process around conflict resolution. I'll leave it at that, Chair.
Thank you, Michelle. Does that answer your question, Kadeen?
Great, thank you. It's helpful to understand that under circumstances where there isn't enough in place to support conflict or conflict resolution, and in the event that what may be happening at a council level is potentially causing harm to others, to other groups, that in those situations, then there has to be some level of intervention, and that there's probably some other things that are measured first before steps are taken to suspend. So I appreciate understanding that. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Next is Seema.
Sorry, my question was answered. It was just more about the context and where this originated from, which you guys just explained. So thank you.
Okay, great, Seema. Next is Johnson.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mitchell, for that exposition. I'd like to know the origin of this motion, and I'd like to know, in the last 12 months, has any school council been suspended? Thank you.
My apologies. Through you, Chair. I don't have a number per se, Johnson, as to what or how many school councils have been suspended or if they've happened.
Thank you, Michelle. Johnson, is that a sufficient answer?
Oh, no, I'm afraid not. Through the chair. You know, Mitchell just educated us. And she said, if the school council is constituting nuisance. Okay. If there is a case of potential harm, inequality issue, any other form of inconvenience, the staff can come and intervene, disband, or intervene as they deem fit, just to bring in calm. And I just joined this group about 2 months ago. I'd like to know, have you disbanded any school council in the last 1 year? You know, I have about 21 schools under my purview. So I need to know from history. And I also need to understand how I'm going to come into this voting for this motion. If you may, I'd appreciate. Thank you.
Through your chair, I don't have a number of schools that may have. I want to clarify language again. The distinction between suspending a council and disbanding a council are very different languages. And so, but I don't have data. So my office doesn't necessarily have the purview to suspend or disband councils. So I don't have or track that number or know what or how many has happened within the year. So I still wouldn't be able to answer that question for you, Johnson, at this time. Sorry.
Okay. Maybe somebody else with the motion can answer. Andrew, you have your hands up. If somebody else, why maybe for the school council or Melanie, how this motion was brought up, because I'm assuming, and correct me, Johnson, what Johnson wants to know is obviously there's a motion in place for that. We're putting it forward. So something must have happened. And I think maybe members want to know the reason this motion was brought up. Did it happen or is it close to it? It might not be suspension, maybe the wording, it might be amendment, but go ahead, Andrew. I think you have your hands up.
Well, if I may, so the motion seeks to formally confirm and describe the board's authority. And that's what we're trying to get at here, right? But yeah, that was a great question, Johnson. I will let Andrew go ahead.
Thank you. So I obviously all our meetings are recorded. You can look back to the previous meeting. There was a discussion. Staff raised the point about requiring consent for us to be able to discuss specific school councils. I do share that, you know, we need to balance these interests. But again, I understand we're trying to talk around language and those kind of pieces. But like, to me, it's a question of like disbandment means that the current council is, you know, either having a new election or doing something or not allowing them to meet or not the principal won't meet with them, those kind of things. Like, we can kind of dance around the language, but I think we're pretty clear about what the intention of this motion is. And I think it really goes to two pieces. Is, again, the key thing is that accountability, right? So the school council is an accountability mechanism, okay? And if TDSB staff, without like going through a rather rigorous process of can simply disband, cause new elections, suspend operations, you know, whatever you want to call it, then it really goes to the heart of what a school council can actually do, and it can have a chilling effect, so that parent members would know, parent caregiver members would know that if they tried to actually engage too much and make a recommendation, that all of a sudden they're out of business, right? So I really think staff need we need to pass this motion so staff could speak to the ministry, come up with a reasonable process, and not acknowledging in these conversations at this table right now about the profound conflict of interest that the staff are in taking these paths. I don't disagree that there are situations where intervention is required, but Regulation 612 lays out that there needs to be a conflict resolution process. The bylaws should have that. and that should be engaged in first. And stepping to new elections and those kind of pieces will only further entrench the divide. And so I really think that this is a reasonable recommendation to prevent some extreme measures being taken, which would cause further conflict. And we're just asking for the board and board staff to consult with the ministry, and then also that there should be a third party, not staff, that are making a recommendation to trustees, similar to how a process works if you're trying to get a suspension lifted. So staff made a determination, and then it goes to a committee of trustees, and the trustees weigh it and determine whether the suspension was warranted. And that's a way of balancing all the interests at the table.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Our last question goes to Eden.
Thank you, Eden Hagos, Ward 16. I would just like to share a comment that the process where bylaws were mandated for all school councils did not allow councils to craft their own conflict resolution. In fact, it forced us to choose from a template. We were not able to change the template unless we had previously existing bylaws. And I would like to voice that there are equity concerns relating to what Andrew just said. I agree with what Andrew has just voiced, that there are concerns regarding the ability of principals and superintendents to be the sole mediators in conflict resolution, especially given that we currently have a number of working groups that are currently working on ensuring principal accountability, and that principals no longer have the power to act as gatekeepers and barriers to the effective function of school councils, and that we are currently working with our executive superintendent to ensure that the school superintendents are being held responsible for holding their principals accountable for their role in ensuring councils are functioning. Therefore, considering that we do not have a conflict resolution process that allows a third party to resolve conflicts that are caused by the issues that principals and superintendents themselves are creating and harming families and councils. I just want to state that I thank you all for the work that you're doing on this, and I hope that we can continue to move forward to ensure that we are creating a process where we are not allowing people who do not have a track record, a proven track record of understanding equity, anti-racism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, and all of the other pieces that are coming into the way that principals and superintendents are engaging with the councils. Thank you.
Thank you, Eden. Michelle, go ahead.
Through you, Chair, thank you for that. I just wanted to clarify that school councils have the discretion to utilize the TDSB's bylaws template. School councils had the discretion to download that template, and sections of the template were mandatory. The mandatory sections of the template aligned with Regulation 612, which are sections that we cannot. Other areas of that template was also mandatory, which would align with some of the key policies and procedures of the board. School councils have the flexibility to take a look at their bylaws, outline a conflict resolution process for their council that may look at an internal school council resolution process, and where that process may fail within the council, meaning, for example, if there's a conflict within the council, within chairs, or there's a conflict within membership and chairs, that within the council, they try to resolve it. If the resolution fails, they may then take that next step to reach out to staff to seek support around that. If the conflict entails the principal, then they may then reach out to the superintendent to seek that. If it includes the superintendent and there's a conflict, then there's the option for the superintendent to explore a third party. If you take a look at any of our bylaw templates, if you take a look at school council templates now, you should be seeing a similar process. But our office welcomes the recommendation and will absolutely outline the existing process in response response back to this recommendation if the committee so deems it required. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Michelle. So we'll move forward on this. This motion was seconded by Andrew. If there are no requests from the membership for a roll call, I would need 3 members. Otherwise, we will move to adopt this motion. Are there any members that would like a roll call vote? All right. Thank you. This motion is adopted.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience, and I'm done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for all your hard work, Melanie. That was quite a fulsome discussion, and I think some great things can come out of that. So we're going to move forward to the Special Events Working Group.
Thank you very much. I'm Tanya Ono, co-rep for Ward 17, co-lead for the Special Events Working Group. So my other co-lead is Nadia, who is on temporary leave for personal matters. So I will give everyone an update. We don't have an official report tonight. But I will give everyone an update about our event happening on February 1st. We are 10 days out. It is getting close and very crunch time. We have extended the invitations to not only PIAC reps, but we've extended the invitation deadline or the RSVP deadline to this Friday at 5 p.m., end of business day. So we have changed that within the invitations, and we have been getting more responses back, and attendance or RSVPs that are yeses have increased since we've extended that, even just as of last night. So unfortunately, as part of that extension, though, for planning purposes, we've had to close registration for childminding and transportation at this time. But people are more than willing to, if you're more than willing to not need those extra services, we're more than welcome to have you join us. On Saturday, we also wanted to note that the original invitation noted a start time of 1 p.m. when registrations actually open at noon. That correction has also been made. In terms of numbers, Seema, you can get into specifics if you would like to speak up, but my last count was about 222 respondents plan on attending, of which we have around 25 requests, children that are signed up for childminding. And then we've got about, I believe, 14 requests for transportation. Catering has been approved, but pending on investigation to make sure that we are making all accommodations possible to our members and people and our attendees. So that is still under investigation and has not been finalized in terms of the menu or the vendor of choice. And then we're in the process of, like I said, as I mentioned earlier, since transportation is now closed, we've got a quotation from childminding, although that's going to be finalized soon. But I'd like to report in general, we are moving well. We would like to, what we didn't realize, and we were wondering why the principal response was quite low, especially when it comes to presenters. So the style of the workshop is 3 options in the first session, 3 options to attend 3 different workshops. 3 different options in the second session. So we're looking for speakers for all 6 sessions, and then we have an open panel with submitted questions at the end. The panel's kind of like the entire group together and with expert opinions, expert responses at the end. So I believe we are still about 3 principals short to help support some of the working sessions. And our ideal was to have, because of the title of our event, was to have a principal, a PIAC rep, or school council rep doing these presentations together. And of course, people that are quite knowledgeable in these working sessions. So we are still a little short on principal responses. And one of the reasons we found out why is that we didn't realize this when we're trying to book event dates. Unfortunately, it falls within report cards being due and principals having to sign off on hundreds of report cards in some cases, and therefore don't have the time to attend the event or put in some time to helping us present. So we are still looking for help for presenters. If anyone wants to reach out with some suggestions, we do have Principal Johnson, who's been absolutely amazing, reaching out to colleagues on our behalf to look for speakers. But we are still a little short, and like I said, it is crunch time. So we're looking for support from our PIAC reps to get speakers. Again, PIAC reps, you are welcome to use the links to share the invitation with people whose emails we might have missed. But we are close to the number we anticipated, but we do realize that there's going to be a 15 to 20% dropout rate last minute that might not attend. So with that, are there any? Oh, and I'll just end it with this update. The PCCEO office will be very, very proud of our working group, I hope, but we are well within budget so far of this event.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Does anyone have any questions regarding the event for Tanya? Crystal, we have Crystal in Ward 6. Go ahead.
I just noticed maybe today or yesterday that it kind of changed. The invitation was open now. So I just wanted to clarify like that originally it was supposed to just be open to like school council chairs, and now is it open to any parent to attend? Sorry, did you hear me?
Tanya, are you there?
I apologize. I don't know what happened. I did not hear that question. So the invitation did change. It changed to address the new time, and as well changed to identify the fact that child minding and transportation registration is now closed.
Crystal asked
those were the changes.
If other school council members were invited besides the chairs.
Oh yes, no, so there is an option to add up to 3 guests. The idea was that we were getting emails, and a lot of school councils use, or not a lot, but some school councils use their TDSB emails provided to them, and it is a shared email account for all of school councils. So where possible, we collected at least 1 email per school council. If there's a co-rep or a co-lead or a secretary or a treasurer that was allowing us or sharing their personal emails, we use the list that we have asked PIAC reps to update those Excel spreadsheets with all the contact emails within their wards. So we took the emails from those lists that school counselors were willing to share with PIAC reps, with trustees, so on and so forth. So if PIAC reps did not update those lists, then we obviously don't have emails to send out. But we did give each principal and each email account that was invited the ability to add up to 3 guests. So that would include a co-chair if you have one, a treasurer, and a secretary. And we specifically stated on the invitation, in the event that the principal got an email and there is no school council representation, they can invite up to 3 parent engaged members of their school community to come as well. And maybe we can
teach them how to create a school council.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that explanation. If there are no further questions regarding the event, we will move on. Now we're running late, and I'm going to ask if someone can put forward a motion to allow us to have an extra 20 minutes for this meeting.
Musa, Ward 19.
Thank you, Musa. And a seconder for that?
I'll second it. Anshu from Ward 8.
Anshu, thank you so much for seconding that. So we will take another 20 minutes to conclude this meeting. So moving on, we now have Communications Working Group. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm Seema Mitchell, Ward 18 here, Communications co-lead. I just put a link in the chat, and it's an email template reps can use to reach out to their principals and their school councils entirely, inviting them all. Up until yesterday, we were just focusing on inviting chairs and co-chairs just to keep the numbers manageable. But due to low enrollment, we opened it up. And so, yeah, we're nearly at capacity, I think. Tanya, we're about 222, I think. So just a few more to go. So it's in the chat. Everybody should have access.
Great. Thank you so much, Seema.
And for communications, for our report, we had 2 items. One, we wanted to just quickly walk everybody through the business cards, the intake form, as well as there's a question. So I'll let Nicole ask the question first to the board. Nicole?
Yeah, hi, Nicole Herbert, former Ward 15 PIAC rep, assistant to the co-lead at Communications Working Group. Our question is for staff. PIAC is aware of several board-wide communication options, including TDSB Connects and the Trustee News You Can Use newsletter. We desire to reach the broadest possible audience with our communications, and we would like to know if there are other board-wide broadcast platforms PIAC may have access to, and if so, what are they, and are there any other possibilities besides the ones we've indicated?
Through you, Chair. I believe the ones that you have access to is the ones that the board offers. So PIAC connects, the chair communicates directly with our communication staff within the board. So when we put out key messaging, what we do is link it to PIAC's PIAC site, in addition to your newsletter that is posted there. I don't believe there's any other mediums we use that differs from what you're presently using now. Nicola, maybe I need to pay a little closer and get clarity as to what the access is that you are now to see if there's any other options for PIAC.
The idea was perhaps we could have a email platform like the way school messenger is used within the schools. I guess for the board, that would be TDSB Connects that reaches every parent.
You don't have access to it, but you're able to submit through the chair, through the PIAC co-chair, in conversation. The PIAC co-chair has had conversation with our comms lead, our communications lead, and our communications lead has indicated you just need to communicate that to the co-chair, and then the co-chair of PIAC will then share that to get into our TDSB Connects.
Great,
but what
yes,
happens, it's not the newsletter, it's they actually link it, put a one-liner and connect it to the PIAC's website, where they may go in and access the newsletter in addition to your site.
Okay, so we do have the deadlines for those information sharing pieces. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Nicole. Are there any further questions regarding the communications group?
Sorry, Seema here. So I'm once we're done this, I'm going, if there's no questions about the communication platform, we'll be reviewing the business card process.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay, is it possible to get screen share privileges, please?
Yes, you can share, Seema.
Sorry, I was muted. So on screen right now, what I'm showing here is the PIAC business card request form. And we just want members who are requesting to read through these rules here, the general do's and don'ts. So one thing is the design will not be changed. And we're including one email address, right? And it's a first come, first serve basis because we do have a small budget. Right, and the request may take up to 20 to 30 days depending on processing and delivery, and you'll be notified when it's ready. And there's no expedited shipping options. So what we wanted to show you is we've made some revisions to the design. So this is what I'm showing here is the front of the business card. So you got the logo, you got your name, what ward you're from, and the TDSB email address, and a QR code, which takes you to the PIAC website. On the back, and actually this email address here, just to sort of clarify, can be the TDSB email address. It can be the PIAC email that you might have created, let's say through Gmail. If you choose to use your personal email address, the one that you use for everything else, you know, reps will assume the risk of that, the privacy concerns. PIAC isn't, you know, we're not taking on the risk of you sharing your personal email address, just to clarify. And here is the back of the card. Any questions?
We have two questions. Jenny, go ahead.
Just a quick question. If you've already submitted a request previously, do we need to resubmit?
No, you do not. We have your responses. And just to sort of elaborate, so what takes a long time is because we're doing them in small batches for multiple different people, when we submit it to a printer, LATHA has to go in there manually and specify each person who's requesting a set of cards, all their information, and then double check it and preview it to ensure that everything looks right before we can confirm and hit print. So it is a bit of a time-consuming process, particularly for LATHA.
Great. All right. Musa, go ahead.
I don't see the option for phone number on the card, which is very important. I can say super important to have phone number there.
That would be a personal phone number, Musa?
Oh yeah, of course.
So now the problem with this is if we put a number, if we put in a placeholder here for a telephone number, that means all reps have to have that have to have a telephone number.
Yeah, basically, throughout the ward, we don't communicate with emails. We all communicate through phone numbers, like all council chairs and other executives or parents that know me. They all call me on my phone. So not having my phone number on my card is something that I cannot fathom.
Right. So this would be something that has to be unanimously agreed on by all reps?
Yeah, sure.
Right, because that is your personal telephone number. There's less safeguards with someone getting a hold of that number and misusing it. So there is a security risk.
I don't see any security risk, sorry, in that, Seema. And I have no problem using my personal phone number
I think
because I'm in the community and When I'm working in the community, I'm using my personal phone number. I'm not being provided a phone from TDSB or PIAC or PCCO. So in that event, I'm working in the community in other roles and positions as well, where I use my personal phone numbers for various organizations that I volunteer for, and it's fine with me. I have no problem with that.
Okay, we have two more questions, and I'm wondering, Seema, if with regards to Moose's comment, if there's a way to customize his card without a lot of issue.
Yes, there will be, because for Latha, it would then be a completely separate design that she has to submit to the printer.
Okay, but is it possible?
I'll have to circle back with them to find out.
Okay.
But it is, I mean, just to clarify again, it is a security risk, whether we're comfortable with it or not. There's less safeguards in place when we use our personal telephone numbers.
Okay.
From a cybersecurity standpoint.
All right, Andrew, do you want to go ahead?
I guess perhaps to take this offline to have that discussion, like, you know, I don't, if we're already allowed to, you know, put a Google on there, like Gmail email, like I could just see just hitting space, and putting the phone number right beside the email. So I think this can be addressed, not at the council. Consultation still needs to go, and I would really like to hear from them as well. Thanks.
Christopher, you have your hand up?
Yes, I was actually just commenting in the comment section. I basically was saying that PIAC is supposed to have their general number for the co-chairs, and all things are supposed to be going through the chairs with regards to communication, with regards to PIAC. The representatives are not supposed to have their own individual phone numbers. Obviously, there are security risks, but that's not the point. The point is that as a unified committee, we're supposed to have one phone number and one email for the general purpose of PIAC. If that's, and I think that was a part of our policies before.
All right, thank you, Chris. If there are no other comments for Seema? Comments or questions? Musa, go ahead.
On Chris's comment, that these are individual customized business cards for the individual ward reps, and this is about communicating with the people in their wards. So I don't see why people in specific wards would call the general phone number, and we don't have no general phone number that anyone from the PIAC chair or co-chair is answering those phones. So this is a individual and independent business card, and that has to have the co-rep's phone number, contact information given out just as a normal business card, where it has a phone number and an email to reach to the person that the card belongs to. Simple as that.
Okay, so Musa and Seema, can you guys connect and perhaps discuss this offline, because this is an issue of customization and
Absolutely, we'll bring it up at the next communication working group meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. And Nicole, just to close it off, you have a comment?
I just wanted to agree with Chris that we will be revisiting the PIAC best practices communications when we're talking about these decisions.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you for that. So we're going to move on. We're really tight for time here. We're going to move on to the consultation working group, and then that will conclude our working group reports. So consultations, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Susan Lee, Ward 12. I'm the co-lead for consultations. So far we didn't have another co-lead, but Nicole Wu has has offered to be the other co-lead for consultations, and so yeah, so for next meeting, she will be my co-lead, Nicole Wu, or Ward 12. So we have two recommendations, and the first one, it was brought up in a previous meeting about parents and caregivers being able to coach school sports teams without teacher involvement. So the recommendation to TDSB is that the Director of Education review the policy, procedures, and practices that are preventing. Oh, can I get this on the on screen, just so, because I'm reading it, and it's lengthy, and so if people can see it on screen, that would be great. Thank you.
So Susan, is this a motion or it's
It's a
just a recommendation? Okay, for staff to take back and,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
So the Director of Education review policy, procedures, and practices that are preventing parents, caregivers from engaging in coaching activities to support sports at their children's schools. It is PIAC's understanding that current TDSB policy is that if a teacher does not agree to coach a particular sport at a school, even when students want to participate in that sport team, then the sport team is canceled. And PIAC recommends, given coaching is not part of teachers' collective agreement requirements, and that many other organizations across Toronto allow for opportunities for parents, caregivers to coach teams where appropriate, vulnerable sector checks have taken place and coaching training occurs without the requirement of a teacher being involved coaching the sports team to ensure equitable and maximal access. So the second recommendation is that the Director of Education review the policy, procedure, and practices that are preventing parents, caregivers from engaging in coaching activities to support sports at their children's school. It is PIAC's understanding that current TDSB policy is that if it just continuing from the first one, we just basically the summary of the recommendation is that we're asking the Director of Education to go to look at the policy, procedure, and practices, and to allow for parents to coach teams where there is appropriate vulnerable sector check and coaching training is done. And so our recommendation is that the Director of Education to report back in writing on their position concerning recommendation 2 and any progress made at the last PIAC meeting prior to the end of April 2024. So that's our first recommendation. We have two recommendations.
I'll second the recommendation.
Do we have any questions? Okay. Janice, you're muted, so.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to have a vote on this. You are making this recommendation for staff to take your recommendation back and report back to us by the end of April. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. So let's hear, we'll hear Susan's second recommendation, and then I have 3 people in the queue for questions.
Okay.
Susan,
sorry,
do you want to go ahead?
Point of order.
Yep.
No, like a recommendation, I think there's lots of confusion at this committee. Recommendations are things that are motions of PIAC that then go on to either the Director of Education or to the board itself. So this does need to be, for it to be legitimized, it does need to be motion. So the motion is seconded right now with these 3 pieces, and hopefully we can have a discussion, and then the committee can determine if it wants to move it forward.
Okay, so we will consider this to be a motion. So do you want to consider these motions together or separately, please, Susan?
Can we do it separately, please?
Okay, great. So let's take our questions then. Nabil from Ward 1 first, please go ahead. Nabil, do you have a question?
think it's not there for the next.
If he doesn't manage to get in a second, I do know his question. Sorry, it's Aaron Ward 1. That's my co-rep.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, so
Is it working now?
Yeah, it's working. Okay.
Oh, sorry, my microphone was
phew.
working. Sorry about that. My question is, when we look at the teachers' collective agreement, shouldn't the coaching role be part of the teachers' collective agreement?
Who are you directing the question? Is it to the staff? TDSB staff?
I'm just trying to understand. There are lots of teachers that are participating in the coaching after the school, and I've come across situations where that situation that we've mentioned in this wording happens, where there's no teachers that are available to perform an activity, and there's a lineup of kids that are willing to play, and yet there's a lot of parents who are qualified coaches within the community who are willing to step in. So I love this part here. And then another concern that I may have with this is I do not want to open the door for organizations to come in and then take a role that it's above and beyond from doing after school sports.
I think sorry to the chair if I can speak on that. I think it's not about organizations, isn't volunteers, parents of students in the school. I think we can reword it, or TDSB staff can specify that won't happen. I agree with you 100%. And so, but from what my understanding is that teachers cannot be forced to coach any sports teams. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it. But then there's so many students who want to have sports or want to take part in sports competitions across the board and cannot because they don't have a staff member who is willing to take on that sports team.
Yeah. Makes sense. Thank you.
So
Okay,
can that
Tanya, do
be-
you want to go ahead? Tanya?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for taking my question. I'll try to make this quick. I have become a community coach. I have gone through the rigmarole of attending the TDESA meeting. I did the application. I did the vulnerability police background check, and the school provided me with a code to get that done free of charge. I went through and did everything and submitted everything to my principal. The principal submitted it to TDESA, and I have been approved as a community coach. I would strongly, or not strongly, but I would suggest that the wording in this, so the current, my understanding is that the current, where can a parent get TDESA certified? That was given to us by LAFTA early in the year to go through that process. There is a form on TDESA's website that you can fill out to start the process. And then you ask your principal to give you the code for the vulnerability background check with the police. But I'll tell you what holds up the process is that police background check. It took close to 2 to 3 months. That being said, though, folks, a teacher does not necessarily have to coach the team. The wording that is in TDESA's requirements is a TDSB staff member. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a teacher. A TDSB staff member has to be present at all practices and sanctioned sporting events, not necessarily a teacher. So I think the wording that we're looking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we're saying that in the event that a TDSB staff member is not present at practices or sanctioned sporting events, we would like the opportunity, if we are certified TDESA coaches, community coaches, we would like the opportunity to run practices and attend events without a TDSB staff member.
All right, thank you, Tanya. I think that's what Nabil was hitting on.
Okay.
Okay, and to second that or to consider for this recommendation or future recommendations based on this topic, when a school does have the interest to support certain TDESA sanctioned sports like ice hockey, TDESA does go out of its way to make sure if you apply for your hockey school ice hockey team on time, they include that registration of your team to give you ice time at hockey arenas around the community so that you can practice as a team in your school, because not all schools have access to hockey arenas. So they do go out of their way to make sure that all schools that have a team put together do get ice time. That being said, the same process does not happen for schools wanting a swim team. Now, we do understand that there's lifeguarding and all that kind of stuff involved with that too. So when you're looking at community coaches and staff being present, you're also looking at some high-risk sports potentially with this motion as well. I would also hope that TDESA one day considers the equal opportunity or access to pools for any school that wants to bring forward a swim team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. We will require another 10 minutes for this meeting. Can I have somebody put forward a motion to extend it by another 10 minutes?
I'll second it.
All right, Azim, you're putting it forward, and somebody to second?
Johnson, word for.
Johnson will put a second to second that motion. Thank you, Johnson. Okay, so we have two more questions here, one from Andrew and then one from Johnson, and then we'll move to take the vote. Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate the feedback from the two members. Yeah, I would suggest accepting to the co-lead to accept the amendment, just instead of saying TDSB teachers to say TDSB staff. The intent of this motion is that if there is to allow parents with, again, the appropriate qualifications, including vulnerable sector check, to be able to coach and do all the activities in the absence of a TDSB staff to ensure students have equitable access where a parent wants to engage at the school level to provide that supporting opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Johnson, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, through the chair. I feel we should review this motion, if that's possible anyways. But let me just tell you my motivation. And burning on my heart profusely is the passion for our children. I once lived in Sweden before coming to Canada, and I know what extracurricular activities mean to our children. In fact, some of them will not become doctors, all right? And the LeBron James of United States, the football and the likes, we can keep mentioning him, Serena Williams, it's not everyone that will become a lawyer. So this shows that we have a big problem at hand. And what we should be advocating for is that the TDSB should create an office that we employ coaches, full-time coaches for our children. And I'm speaking as a parent, and I'm speaking to other parents. And in fact, staffs that are present in this meeting. I will not be voting. Rather, I will admonish us to see beyond this and know that we can do much more for our children. This is not what they deserve, because some of them, their destiny lies along the lines of the decision we take on this matter. This is a serious matter, a very germane matter at that. I don't want to get too emotional. I yield at this point.
Okay, thank you, Johnson. So I think what you're getting at is a little bit beyond this motion. I think that's like a greater level of engagement from the TDSB. I'm wondering if a staff can comment on Johnson's proposal that a coaching office be created to address these situations.
Elizabeth, do you want to comment on that?
Thank you, and through the chair. If we think about the current state of the board in terms of its budget constraints, I'm not certain how that would be taken up in terms of our current practice. I understand the spirit of the motion that is being brought forward, trying to increase equitable access to all students across the districts to extracurricular activities, which is a key part of a student's experience in the K-12 context. I know from my experience at the past in terms of sort of legal responsibility and mitigating risk, TDSB teachers are often or expected to be working alongside coaches, whether they're community coaches or teaching coaches. So I'm just not certain of the budget constraints that we'd have to have outside coaches, considering all that we have to do in terms of our just everyday funding. And just wondering about perhaps tightening up the motion, knowing the constraints for collective agreements, because our collective agreements were just negotiated. And there are no conditions for teachers. It's not an expectation in a teacher's collective agreement to coach. That is fully a voluntary experience. So those are some of my thoughts.
All right, thank you so much, Elizabeth. I think the concern here is that parents are allowed to step in where they are qualified through either coaching or police checks to facilitate the creation of a team and to coach the team. Correct me if I'm wrong here. So I think that's what we're voting on. I'm going to allow Trustee Dovatius to speak on this.
Just very quickly, because I know it's late, but just to highlight for folks, the collective agreement, generally speaking, widely speaking, is negotiated at the provincial level. By the time it comes to the individual school boards, things such as the topic of this motion are already settled. This wouldn't be something that the Toronto District School Board or any school board across Ontario, I don't think, we can always get the report back from staff and they can weigh in on it, but on a quick read today, and this is not something that at the board level, the school board would be able to change because of the structure of how that's negotiated. That's the first comment, just to like temper expectations in terms of what staff are able to come back with. And then secondly, in terms of being able to expand the program, it'd be amazing. But again, the funding comes from the province. We are giving the monies that are spoken for already. Often. So it's really a matter of priorities. Do we want after school programs or not? And one of the biggest parts of the budget conversations last year and the year before, really since the time I've been here and before, is that we are funded 9-3. And those are the ministry priorities. Anything that is not 9-3 is we're being asked by the ministry to take out things like Learn for Life and things like that. So there will be an appetite for many of us to support this initiative to have more after-school programs, etc. But there are some limitations in there in terms of what we can do, and just don't want people to think that it's the school board implementing these things just because. But there are heavy changes around what we can do on this type of thing from the Ministry of Education. Thank you.
Can I get added to the speakers list, please?
Actually,
I'm just
sorry,
driving right now, so I'm not able to put my hand up. Sorry.
So, Sarah, I'm going to get you to weigh in on this. We have 3 hands that would like to speak, and we're very limited on time. How would you like to move forward on
We are
this?
very limited, guys. So the main thing is I think we're still on the consultation, and they still have another recommendation, right? Is it relating to that? If the questions can be
No,
or
no.
commented, that would be great.
Yeah, sorry, it's 2 separate issues, but
So we're still on the first issue.
yeah.
Okay, is there a way we can, and this is, I'm gonna say it, guys, and maybe I was gonna leave it to the end. This is one of the reasons why it's so crucial for members. Please, 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 if for more clarification, you guys are more than welcome to attend the consultation working group for more idea than to bring it up in the PIAC general meeting. So it really will help and expedite so that we limit on our general meeting to be for 2 hours. But if you guys have a question that is quick and related and can be answered, that would be great. But we're really, really falling behind. It's already 9:30 right now. Unless you guys
Okay,
say a
so
word.
I'll take myself off the speakers list, but really what it is a quick comment about generally the idea of the PIAC's grants and funds are supposed to also contribute to parent engagement. So that's one of the reasons why I think that I wanted to just jump in and add that to the trustees' comments with regards to some of the budget constraints. So
Awesome.
we do have grants for these specific purposes.
Excellent.
And that's all.
Thank you. That's very important to notice. I think we have Andrew.
Tanya?
Tanya first, and Andrew.
Yeah.
Go ahead, guys.
Okay. I just quickly wanted to say that maybe to edit this to take out the teachers collective agreement, if people are going to get hung up on that wording, that might stop this suggested amendment or recommendation, then maybe we should take it out and consider just saying, PIAC is aware that TDSB staff being involved in school sports or sanctioned school sports, that maybe we are aware that it is a volunteer position. It is complete, and the same goes for community coaching. It's a volunteer position, but maybe instead of getting hung up on the collective agreement, because it sounds like that's the wording that some people are going to get hung up on. It's a provincial thing, So maybe we just reword it to say we're aware that this is a volunteer position that, and it just so happens that not a lot of TDSB staff are willing to volunteer for these positions. So we're asking if community coaches can be addressed and so on and so forth. And lastly, TDESA is TDESSA. There's no E between the T and the D. Just to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Andrew?
You.
Yeah, so I support this piece. So the amendment would be where it states PIAC recommends, basically removing, just say PIAC recommends, given, and just remove that whole part. Many other organizations across allow for the opportunity for parent caregivers to coach where appropriate vulnerable sector checks and coaching training occurs without the requirement, and instead of teachers, say TDSB staff being involved. And that would be sufficient to, I think, address the concerns. The other thing too is I think in general, these are recommendations. They are not going to become force of law or anything like that. TDSB staff can respond back, and then we can make a further recommendation. So I really think it's about getting these pieces forward, get staff working on them, and those kind of pieces. That they can come back and say what the limitations are in those kind of pieces. So that would be my suggestion.
Sounds good. Thank you, Andrew.
Well put, Andrew. Yeah. Susan, are you willing to make those amendments, and then we can move forward on this?
Yes, I'll make the amendments and then I'm going to just kind of amalgamate 1 and 2 so that it's just recommendation to both the TDSB and Director of Education, and it's just one recommendation that TDSB and the Director of Education review the policy, procedures, and practices that are preventing parents, caregivers from engaging in coaching activities. I'll continue, and then PIAC's understanding that current TDSB policy is that if a TDSB staff member does not agree to coach a particular sport at school, even when students want to participate, and that's where that the sport team is canceled, PIAC recommends giving coaching to that PIAC recommends that coaching is a volunteer position, right? And that many other organizations across Toronto allow for opportunities for parent caregivers to coach teams where appropriate, vulnerable sector checks coaching, training, and sorry, I have to fix the wording, but basically we'll recommend that vulnerable sector checks are done, coaching training is done, and TDESSA certified, they be TDESSA certified without the requirement of a TDSB staff being involved for coaching the sports teams where that to ensure equitable and maximal access. Is this okay with everyone? Sorry, I'll fix the wording so that it's a little bit better.
I second the amended motion.
Okay, great, thank you. That's being seconded by Andrew.
Yeah.
We will proceed to a consent approval. If there are not 3 members that would like a roll call, then we can adopt this motion. Are there
Madam
3
Chair.
members that would like a roll call?
Yeah, Andrew has his hand up.
Madam
Sorry,
Chair.
Jack Igor.
Sorry about that.
Jack, you
Just-
want new business, right?
No. I have a comment on this motion and maybe motions in general, if I can just make a quick suggestion. So first of all, engaging in requests for staff reports takes staff time. And again, with cutbacks in central staff that we experienced this year, every report takes us away from other duties. And I'm not minimizing the importance of reports, but might I suggest in very general terms that when discussing a potential motion, one way to get information ahead of time that might inform the development of a motion is to have a staff presentation to PIAC that might answer a question that you have about this. And so in this case, I could see, for example, somebody from risk management talking to you about, what's involved in assigning this task to a community member from a risk management perspective, and explaining probably to you that this has been looked at in the past and may have been not possible for this reason, at which time you could even look at a motion and revise it if you think there might be another way. So and so I make that recommendation only because there are a number of motions coming forward that require staff time and reporting, etc., which involves potentially a team of people, or in more trying circumstances, one person who has to develop this report, and then kind of is pulled away from another duty that they might have, which may involve serving schools or something similar. So just as a general suggestion, in a motion that is long and involved, it might be advisable to invite a staff member to come and speak to you about something that you're wondering about, so that you have some background information that might inform the development of a possible motion. But I'll leave it at that for now. You're in the middle of a motion, you're about to vote on it. But I might suggest that might be a good way to collect some information ahead of developing the motions. Thank you.
I think because this is a recommendation, it is a motion, but it's a recommendation. And then when staff looks at it, they can easily come back to us and say, well, this was looked at and this is how we came to this decision. But I think at this moment, because it is up on the floor, I would rather just take the vote as is.
Great, thank you. So we are now in the process of taking the vote. So if there are not 3 members that would like a roll call vote, we will adopt this motion. And I don't see 3 members, so this motion is adopted. Thank you, Susan. Is there anything further from consultations?
Yes, and I'll send the amended motion back to the group. So
Great,
then
thank
our
you.
second recommendation or motion is we understand that Andrew is running for the Ward 11 by-election, and I was questioned whether he has helped me to draft this motion. Andrew is very crucial in terms of like he helps me with the wording because I'm not as eloquent, but it is something that has come up with within the consultations group, and Nicole and I have talked about it. We're welcome to hear from other members in PIAC, but so far many have not really taken part in our consultations meeting. Our recommendation is not just.
Sorry, point of order.
Sorry. Yep.
I'd like to speak to this point. This has happened a number of times over the course of PIAC in my 5 years here, where members have felt comfortable making accusations of other members' integrity. It has happened to me in the past. I think in 2022, you can go back and look at the minutes and the recording. Again, at the beginning of the meeting, I did indicate out of abundance of caution. I understand my
Point of order. Andrew's in conflict. There's a definite conflict of interest on the floor right now.
Chair,
Andrew should not be speaking to this recommendation at all in any form. Thank you.
Second recommendation we're talking about? And I think Michelle Monroe has her hands up.
So it's each member is to determine their own conflict.
Point of order.
Erin, can you? Yes.
Could this incivility stop, please?
Andrew, can you go on mute? Everybody on mute. Susan is just speaking right now as the co-lead of consultation. Has she finished it?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So please, out of respect of the co-lead, this is why we're going to say that this is one of the things that we're taking as a co-chair notes on making sure that certain members are attending the working group. And we're going to elevate. There's a lot of information that we're taking tonight, but let's have co-lead Susan finish it with Nicole.
So my statement was that this is not to favor one person over others, but to show transparency from the board and from all of PIAC to allow all of the for TDSB to send out notification through their communication channels that there is a by-election for Ward 11, and sending out voter information, sending the link out from the City of Toronto explaining who the candidates are, and then who is running. It's a simple just link to the City of Toronto voter information link. It is to introduce that there is a by-election for people to be more aware of the trustee elections and to get more involved in voting for their trustees. That's all. It is not to promote one person over another. It is simply to promote awareness that these trustee elections or by-elections are taking place, and that we would like parents to get more involved and their voices heard, rather than complaining afterwards, after the election has taken place, that the board is not hearing their voice. Rather, I would think it would be more inclusive if we have the board allowing parents to, informing parents that there is a by-election taking place, their voices need to be heard through these by-elections or election processes, and that here are the candidate leads, and you can see it through the City of Toronto website. That is all that this recommendation is.
Okay, so let's just hang in. Michelle, you want to say something through it? Because I know we're running out of time. This is one of the reasons for that, but go ahead, Michelle.
Through you, Chair, I just wanted to speak to the lead's comments and just be transparent that at the beginning of the meeting, I heard the ward rep declare a conflict. If you scroll up at the top of this report, I noted that the conflict that was declared around the by-election, that the member's name was listed as being present in the working group meeting. So this is why I connected in chat with the working group lead, just to clarify that the individual who declared the conflict, Ward 3 who declared a conflict earlier, that putting this motion forward, if they had a role in this crafting this motion, may be perceived as a conflict of interest for PIAC, because it may not be intended that PIAC's intent is to put this out, that it's supporting a candidate. However, PIAC, a member has declared that they are running, and then that member participated, as this minutes indicated, in this item. So I was clarifying whether the member actually participated or not, or drafted it. If it was drafted in any way by the member who declared a conflict, then this could be a conflict of interest for the committee. And I was just trying to flag that privately without putting it on the floor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So what was the answer outcome, Susan?
Sorry, can I address that?
Yeah, yes, actually, Andrew's here, so perfect timing. Now you can answer. Go ahead.
Okay. So again, rather frustrating. Again, I did, out of abundance of caution, indicate my status at the beginning of this meeting. I did not declare a conflict. So that is language Michelle Monroe is using. As I am very clear and have read all the policies and procedures related to elections and those kind of pieces, both for the TDSB. And again, this motion promotes engagement of parents for all candidates. So in my assessment, and again, conflict of interest is determined by the individual members. And again, either staff or other members making accusations of other members, again, is uncivil. And hopefully this can stop. I just want to make these comments because it's rather frustrating, because ultimately this is intended to increase parent engagement and support democracy.
Okay, Susan, co-lead, and Nicole for the consultation working group co-lead. With these two recommendations, what's the step? Are you guys taking it back, or one has been approved? Sorry, I apologize. The second one, is it? Go ahead.
I don't see how this is a conflict of interest, nor how it is promoting one PIAC member or during this election. What I'm trying to do is to have TDSB be able to engage our parents, explain to them that there is a by-election, that these trustee elections are really important, and that they look into every candidate and then make the most informed decision. But if it's low voter turnout. We've asked for a trustee election in Ward 11, and I think it would be great if we made a communication stating that this is a really important process. We would like you to look at all the candidates and vote for the best possible candidate for your ward. That's it.
Good. Yeah, I read the component. I think we have Matthias. Thank you for correcting it, Trustee Matthias, and then we have Aaron.
Thank you, folks. I'm not sure how I can make the comment without it being taken as a personal affront, because often things I've seen in the last year or so, they become personalized. But I would say this, conflicts of interest at this level, when you're making a public request, are also about the perceived potential for the conflict of interest. So the process here is difficult. A. B.
school board's already doing this. I got notices. I received the information a number of different times. You know, we can always sort of informally ask staff to go back and do it without having to put PIAC in the perception of a conflict. You know, whether people want to sort of dispute the wording on it in detail and so on. You know, the subject of the election keeps on coming back, and it comes back with the same names attached to it. So, you know, from an outsider's perspective, you need to think about PIAC and the role of PIAC within the school board. And, you know, we can always ask staff to do these things without having to go through the formal motion. And it will achieve the same effect, I think. I think staff can agree to that, maybe. I don't know, but I'm watching this, and I want to bite my tongue, and I don't want to sort of step in and tell you folks how to operate and what to do. But I also want to provide some feedback. And if we were doing this at the board, we would definitely assume that some of the things that were described here were conflicts, and we would get professional advice before we acted, for example.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't determine whether I'm on a conflict on my own, for example. I wouldn't do that. I would ask first. Anyways, thank you for that.
Appreciate it. Thank you for that. Erin, go ahead.
Hi there, thank you. Could you put the motion, please, back on the screen here? I just wonder, this has Ward 11 all over it. We do have a member that is running for Ward 11. Personally, I think that is a definite conflict of interest. However, my question, and I see it echoed in the chat, is this going to be a request of the TDSB for every election going forward? Or is this strictly this one time?
I mean, we can change it so that if you think that Ward 11, the mention of Ward 11 is the is a conflict of interest, but I think it should be going forward for every trustee election, just to create awareness and have more parents, engaged. I think over communication is better than little or few communication. I mean, it's just like our PIAC, the special event that's coming up in February. You put out more emails and then you got a few more responses. I don't think it hurts for us to send out more communication saying that there is an election or even a by-election. And if for every election, why not? Because we want more parent engagement. We want parents to understand that this is an important role, that it isn't just someone that you just allow to come in, and that if you really want parent voice to be heard, you have to start with the elections.
Absolutely. And Janice, you want to say something through that? Because we got to wrap it up because it's been going.
Yeah, I just want to say, being the representative of Ward 11 PIAC, and also being, having kids at Northern, which is Ward 11, we've been notifying multiple times through the principal's weekly updates that there is going to be a trustee election. So just for what it's worth.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Thank you. Azim, Ward 21. Azim, for Ward 21.
Sorry, I was muted and I'm speaking. Okay, sorry. Yes, the communication has to go out from the TDSB, and it's a by-election. Of course, there will be a lower voter turnout, and on top of it, it's $500,000. $500,000 has been spent on this election from the TDSB budget. So at least they have to say something. So sending out a notification and informing the PIAC members also is a good tool, because they need to know that there is an election coming in. So I feel if at all there are now, looking at the list, there are 10 candidates. Are we mentioning all the 10 candidates, or are we mentioning only one candidate? We are mentioning all the 10 candidates. So it's I would say acceptable to say, because it's pertaining to TDSB and it's a TDSB ward election. So I think we should keep it a little low and then start communicating to the people and encourage people to go out and vote and participate in the democratic process. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Azim. Thank you very much. We got to wrap it up, guys. Everybody has their hands up, Ward 9 and Ward 11. Let me go with who was first one on it. It's 9:54. And this is why I'm going to be very crucial, probably after the next meeting, next PIAC rep, is finding out who have joined the working group. This is why we have working groups to attend. And I know Susan and Nicole, who's just been elected through it, has been reaching out numerous times for PIAC rep to attend those working groups to have even deeper discussion compared to the general meeting. But in that case, let me see for it. Janice, did you see who was first? Because I don't want to. I see two hands, Melanie or Erin.
Erin first and then Melanie.
Erin, go ahead. And then Melanie.
I would just like this motion withdrawn.
Yeah, that's going to be a vote on it. I went through it. So this is recommendation, correct, Susan, if I remember?
Yes, it's a recommendation.
And to summarize it, the recommendation is in regarding the transparency, as Ward 21 was mentioning and others, right? Okay. Melanie, we'll come back, Erin, to your question. So if in regards motion to withdrawn, are you requesting for vote, Erin?
If I need to have a vote for it to be withdrawn, then yes, I will officially ask.
Yeah. So you mentioned
for it to be withdrawn.
Yeah, so we're gonna have, if there's 3 people vote requesting through it, and Janice, you're still on the board for that working group. But let's hear from Melanie and we'll go through that.
So I want to say, like, I agree with what Azim was saying, like the TDSB has spent a lot of money on this, but my question is, though, I'm sure there is a current procedure of how this is happening, because I myself have gotten communication about Ward 11 and I'm not in Ward 11 through the TDSB, so it's going out. So my question is, maybe staff can tell us how it works now, in comparison to what the group is asking in the motion. And I also want to say, Sarah, I know you keep saying go to the working groups, but we're limited with time. We can't go to every single working group, right? But and this is why we have these discussions, because we all want to like have our voices heard. So it's very hard. But another thing is, I feel like we need to maybe see the motion sooner, because maybe if we see the motions, we can reach out to the working group leads and say, hey, I have some questions about your motion. And then they can maybe, like, we can have it like a separate chat offline about it prior to the meeting. So that's just, anyway, for consideration.
No, Melanie, that was one of the things that we're working on, making sure the working group to send out the report or motion prior, and then you guys to have that, and even having a reminder just to go through it. Absolutely. That's part of the communication. So you're absolutely correct, Melanie, in that regard. It's not just going, I understand everybody's busy, but it's also from our end to make sure that information reach out to you guys to make those firm decisions. So thank you for that. Susan and Melanie, I think, Janice, if you're there, should we go in regards to the second? If there's going to be vote, we need 3 individual.
Yeah, so yeah, we're running out of time. So we're going to proceed to the vote. If there are 3 individuals that would like a roll call for this vote, please make it known. Otherwise, we will go to a consent vote.
Ward 1 requesting roll call.
Ward 8 roll call, please. Ward 9 roll call, please.
So that's 3 roll.
Okay, so that's our 3 wards. 1, 8, and 9 are requesting a roll call, so we will proceed to a roll call vote for this.
Ward 1 against.
Ward 1 against. Ward 2?
Nobody's from Ward 2 here today.
Okay, Ward 3?
Abstain.
Okay, Ward 4? No Ward 4.
Maybe
Ward 5.
or Johnson, but I don't know if he's here. No, nobody from Ward 5.
No. Ward 5. No. Ward 6.
In favor.
In favor, yes. Ward 7.
Nobody from Ward 7.
Ward 8.
Ward 8 abstain.
Okay. Ward 9.
Not in favor.
Against. Ward 10.
Nobody.
No. Ward 11. That's my ward. Is Charles here?
No, Charles is not here.
Okay. So should I vote?
Yeah, you're part of it. You're just helping me. You're on the rep.
Okay, I'm going to abstain. Ward 12.
Ward 12 in favor.
Ward 12 in favor. Ward 13.
Nobody representing from Ward 13.
Ward 14. Ward 14.
Ward 14 abstain.
Okay, Ward 15.
Nobody from 15.
Ward 16.
I was Eden, but I think she probably left.
Yeah, Ward 17.
Not in favor.
Okay, Ward 18.
Ward 18, Seema, against.
Okay, Ward 19.
Ward 19, abstain.
Okay, Ward 20. Ward 21.
Ward 21, abstain.
And Ward 22.
Not here.
Okay, let me just give me a second to count.
That's a good question. Is there still quorum, members?
Good question.
I agree. And then the comment is, in future, we should stick to time. This is what we're trying to do, guys, which is very crucial to read on documentation and 10 working groups.
One moment.
Go ahead. Yeah, membership. We're just going to find out if we have it or not, because there's a lot of people that have left.
No, we are under quorum.
Okay, so we don't have enough to achieve that vote.
So the meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
All right, so that vote does not, cannot be concluded.
No. Okay, in regards, thank you for Nicole. In regards, since we already passed time and we still have a lot of in our agenda, is it okay to take it forward for the working groups? Susan and Nicole?
Take this back and then do it next week, next month, or
Months, yeah,
yeah, that's fine.
with more detail.
We'll work on it again.
Yeah, since you guys are already amending the first one, correct? With
Yeah.
some wording. So when is the next meeting so that everybody right now that we have access know when your next meeting?
We're just trying to change the time, so I'll ask Lata to send out an email.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Susan and Nicole. It wasn't easy and there was a lot of motion in place. And maybe, I know we don't have Zina as a way through it, and as your new co-chair, I'm still in the learning process, but I will tell you, moving forward, we are gonna try to keep it within 2 hours. That is one of the goals, component, and we're gonna make sure that if possible, also to hand in all the reports, and depending how many motion each working group, and even if it's possible to divide the motions, so that is not all in one meeting. If there's recommendation motion, which ones are necessary to go forward, and which one can we put aside for the next month meetings? and so on. But again, thank you, Janice. I think we got PCCO office, Michelle Monroe, you've been patiently waiting for almost an hour.
So Michelle, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
Through you, Chair. Thank you. My apologies, Janice. Chair, if it's all right with you in light of the time, I had 2 slide decks. I will just ask Latha to share the information with the members that they can read it at their leisure.
That's amazing, Michelle Monroe. A winning for Michelle Monroe, PCCO office, to expedite it. Okay. I don't see the agenda, but I think it's the new item following from the PCCO office.
Oh, where did my agenda go? Following the PCCEO office, ward updates, and then new business. And Jack has some new business for us.
Sorry, point of order, Madam Chair. When we lost quorum, are we not adjourning for the evening? That's been asked a number of times. Perhaps Michelle can give clarification on that.
Yes. Apology, guys. The learning through, and yes.
You've answered the question, Co-Chair. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Yes. So we need to adjourn the meeting, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you until next meeting, and documentation information is going to be
Night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thanks, Sarah.
Good night, everyone.
Excellent job, Janice.